which claimed 2 lives right before their eyes a day earlier. Among the small groups gathered around the crime scene, the talk is about what could have been and how some of the residents escaped death by a whisker. A video I obtained shows the deceased mother of 3, Joyce Samankwa, known better as Sister Bedu, lying face down in a pool of blood after being hit by one of many bullets fired by the armed men that day. She had dashed into the structure to serve a client who had stopped by her convenience store when the assailants went trigger happy.
It is scary because I had met her that morning, only to return to hear she has been killed. Who would cater for her children?
That was the end of the mother of 3. In here, the structure which used to house the late Joyce Bedu, who was shot and killed here by the armed men, relatives have vacated the place, and you can see red bands all over the place. 2 vehicles parked at a crowded mechanic shop also have bullet holes. Kwesi Minta says he narrowly escaped death.
On my way to lunch, I heard a gunshot. I took cover only to return to see the policeman in a pool of blood. His weapon was taken away.
Those who saw the incident at close range remain traumatized. Another video I have obtained shows the aftermath of the killing of a constable Emmanuel Osei, who was shot multiple times in the head. Nana Ahin had to run for his life. The woman was attending to me and one other client when the robbers showed up and started shooting indiscriminately. So before she could emerge out of the shop, she was hit by a bullet. The robbers then went ahead to shoot the police officer multiple times in the head. Police CID officials and personnel from the Jamestown Police, led by the crime officer, have been interrogating witnesses and other residents as investigations continue into the incident. The residents hope the police can apprehend the killers if it means relying on cameras fitted at the intersection. In the meantime, they say beefing up security around here will do them a lot of good. We plead
with the police to enforce the laws so these crimes would be prevented.
I met the police this morning and I told them that we have to up our game. First of all, I want this matter here expeditiously investigated, as well as other outstanding investigations, including Swali. This government has empowered the CID. We now have equipment that makes it better for us to have better control and be able to deal with crime scenes and what have you. And that is why in places like Sakragua, even when they were earlier arrested, we are asking them to go and reconstruct. So we are empowered the CID. They have tertiary education with the support of UCC. They are better now than they were before, and we want all these things put together to make sure that we resolve these matters. I want to emphasize that I told the police that each death is equally important. It mustn't be a police. It mustn't be a prominent politician. Each death is equally important. And the most important office or status in this country is citizen of Ghana. This matter should be dealt with as quickly as what has happened in the daytime, but they raised an issue that I think I want to use this opportunity, this forum, to appeal. They say there's a person who owns a CCTV in the vicinity. The police are asking that they be given the recording of the CCTV and there was resistance from the owner. I want to use this medium to appeal to him to cooperate and to appeal to all those persons who were in the vicinity to assist the police with whatever descriptions or whatever information that they have to enable us to track them. Yes, 191 is free, toll free. We want that information. And Jifa, I mean it. We are going to, the president is not satisfied when there is a loss of life and he doesn't get results. I know what he does. What is happening here? How long can we get this thing? It's unacceptable. And so, I'm sorry I have to pass the heat on to all those concerned, and Ghanaians must rest assured that we are not going to take the matters lightly.
Right, so that was the story there, and just at the tail end of it, you had the Interior Minister there, Ambrose Derry, speaking in an interview there with Chief Abampo, and indicating that he had given some directives to the police to go into the investigations, and also he talked about the unresolved crimes and mentioned specifically that of Ahmed Swale. And so, quite a number of things to look at this morning. Welcome once again, Doc. It's good to have you.
Thank you.
Great. Now, this issue here that we have on our hands, obviously a very disturbed one. And by the way, our condolences to the bereaved families of the police and the hawker. It's rather a very devastating issue here. But when you look at the statement issued by the Ghana Police Service in respect of this, they indicate that preliminary investigations show that unidentified armed men on a number of motorbikes crossed the bullion van, which was on a pay collection errand at about 11 o'clock, and shot at the police officer who was on escort duty on the van, killing him instantly. Now that clearly brings a whole lot of issues to play. It's a myriad of issues we're looking at: motorbikes, the brazen attacks during, the broad daylight, and all other things that we're looking at here. Let me know your initial reaction to this.
Thanks for having me. I just want to start by saying that this whole incident is unfortunate and should not continue. But also to say that there are many factors, multi-dimensional, that are working to bring this about. Increasing poverty levels. Like you mentioned, there's also this whole issue of moral decadence. And now I think it's becoming old-fashioned for the youth if you're trying to instill discipline in them, but which is extremely important. Then again, also the desire to get rich quickly. It's an issue. People want to get rich and show off. The peer pressure is also adding to this whole thing. And then, of course, you have a lot of small arms and light weapons around. They are circulating. In West Africa, those days when we're talking about estimates right from 2004 onwards, we're talking about between 7 million, 10 million. I don't know the situation currently. I haven't done researches lately, but they are still circulating. And of course, that also then means that in Ghana, you have local manufacturers who produce these weapons.
Very well. Now, let me quickly, sorry to cut you, let me announce that we've been joined on Zoom by Dr. Ishmael Norman. He's the president and CEO of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. Dr. Norman, good morning. Can you hear me?
How are you?
Good. I think you need to unmute your mic. We can hear you. Okay, so we'll come back to you whilst you do the necessary connections there so we can hear you. But at least we do know that Dr. Ishmael Norman has joined us via Zoom. We'll be getting to him shortly. But sorry, Doc, please carry on.
Okay, so on the issue of the small arms, you also have the local manufacturers and those that are imported. Until you have arms readily available for people to access illegally, so to speak. And all these factors have culminated in increased crime. Right. Of course, you mentioned the issue of this frenzy about motorbikes, how people are riding these bikes around, and so all these then becomes appealing to
and
youth.
then there's unemployment.
And then you talked about the boldness of doing these things in the day, and even to the extent of putting a gun, shooting a police officer. The influence, drugs and narcotic influences, taking hard substances and all that, emboldening these youths to do all these. So these are some of the multiple factors that are resulting, in some of these things we're experiencing lately, including the kidnappings, the ritual murders, and all these things.
Right.
It's a terrible situation.
Right. It's a great. Now, the reports indicate that the armed men, or those who attacked the bullion van, actually took away the policeman's AK-47. That is also an issue of concern. Can we speak somewhat to arms handling or the handling of guns with police personnel whilst on duty? What are we to take away from this incident?
There are so many issues around that. The policeman basically is trained to prevent, detect crime, and of course also they are supposed to do arrests and protect lives and properties. Now, when they are given arms, at the end of the day when they go back, whether any of these ammunitions were discharged or not, they have to report and all that. Now, in the process of carrying arms to go on duty and come back, a lot of things happen. We've had cases where some criminals have had access due to police being complicit in the use of some of these weapons, and even some of the accoutrements of these officers, they've been using crime and all that. So that tells you that in terms of training and all that, there are some bad nuts in the service who kind of also participates in some of these. That is one aspect of it. In this particular incident, the man was killed, and that is why they were able to have access to his weapon. But that's a serious offense, extremely, extremely serious offense. And what that means is that if that weapon again is used in any kind of robbery, you're tracing it to the person that the weapon was assigned to. And so those weapons in private hands, it's a problem.
Right.
Now, the whole issue of the small arms thing we've been talking about, we at a point in time tried bringing the local manufacturers of small arms together under one umbrella. So there's a form of regulation because it's a trade. But it has been a bit difficult because then the approach adopted pushes them underground to continue producing these locally manufactured arms because they said this is what they live off, And so once they also produce it, it goes out and people use it for robberies. We were advocating for the shotguns and all that to be minimized, but rather for hunting, you produce, if it's possible, like rifles and all that. But it hasn't, not much has happened. And another side of the issue is this, that there is a need to ensure that some estimates are undertaken. Get to have an idea of how many small arms and light weapons are circulating in the system.
We don't have that?
The last time I checked, we're talking about 1 million or so. But is that the real estimate? Because some are still being imported, others are being produced locally, and they are circulating in the system. An idea, a rough estimate of that, gives us the ability to go ahead and begin to find ways of collecting these weapons from the system, and also strengthening the regulation around who owns arms, who produces it, what it's used for. All these enhances tracing, marking, the weapons, stocking it, tracing, and all those kinds of things. And so we need to really look into this whole thing. And there's a whole commission for that.
Right.
That should be able to do these
Right.
things.
And oftentimes these issues only pop up when incidents like this happen, and it seems to fizzle out the next day or two.
Exactly my point.
Right.
Once it's out of media attention, it becomes no news at all. Something else takes over. But to what extent can we follow these through to logical conclusions?
Very well. Let me see if we can try and get in touch with Dr. Norman. Dr. Norman, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Great. It's good to have you, and hope you're doing well.
Very well. I'm doing very well.
Good. So we're looking at this incident, a very troubling one. We're looking at, what could have led to that. A number of issues have come up. We do appreciate that it's a myriad of issues, multifaceted and all of that. And I would want us to hone in specifically, obviously after you've given your initial reaction, to how much of a contributory factor the fact that there are a number of unresolved crimes in the nature of what we saw this week that contributes to, the recurrence of it.
I believe that the criminals are not looking at their unresolved crimes. They are basically looking for opportunity. I don't think they are so academic that they do the statistics to see which are the cold cases and which are not. I think they are making rational choices here as they go along in order to improve their lot. And so the situation of unemployment in the country, as well as basically the general unfairness in inequities within the country, is making the youth revolt against the establishment. So that is what is going on. I don't think the unresolved crimes has anything to do with why we are having an uptick in crime. The youth want to be happy. The youth want to have jobs. The youth want to have a life that when they look around them, other people who are well situated are having, and they don't see that. And because of that, they are revolting. This is a youth revolt in a minuscule way, but it is still a youth revolt, because a few months ago, we didn't have this problem.
Sorry to cut you, but if you could kindly tilt your monitor towards you a bit, because we don't have you well in the shot.
Is it better?
I think we can I think we can make do with that. Yes. So please carry on.
Right. So like I'm saying, it is a youth revolt, and I think the adults of this country have to sit up and begin to recognize that they also have contributed to the problems that we are having right now. Because
so Doc, are you suggesting that the fact that by reason of there not being closure when it comes to a number of these crimes, and the fact that sanctions that ought to be meted out to persons who are found culpable are not meted out, there's no reinforcement of sorts? Because I believe that when there's closure brought to such matters, perhaps the signal is that if you get involved, you'll be caught and the law will take its course. But here we are with a number of unresolved matters, and so you never get to see the end of these things, and the necessary sanctions are not meted out. You don't think that is a factor at all?
It is a factor. It's definitely a factor. But I don't think they are worried about the quantum of cold cases that are still outstanding. But that is why I began by saying it's a rational choice. They know they can get away with the crime when they commit it. They know that the criminal justice system is slow. They know that the police is not well resourced, well equipped. And they know that the judiciary system may have issues of corruption. And so, I mean, what will stop you from committing a crime when you do the assessment and you know you can get away with the crime? Nothing will stop you from committing a crime. So I think that is what is going on. The youth are not stupid. They are very intelligent group of young men and women. And the young men, oftentimes, have decided they will not take it anymore. That government has to improve programs and activities that are beneficial to the youth. And if government is not going to do it, if society is not going to do it, if banks are not going to assist the private enterprise to grow businesses so they can employ more people, they're going to take the law into their own hands. So what we are having here is that part of the level of corruption that we have in the country that is not properly being addressed. All of that annoys the youth. It makes them very angry, just as it makes everybody angry that people can steal so much money with impunity and get away with it with impunity. So what would stop them from going out there and stopping a bullion van and attacking it, taking the money, and also going away.
Right.
So the responsibility is a shared responsibility. The culpability is a shared culpability. Our older folks, those within ages 45 and above, we are responsible for what is happening now. It's not only the youth, it's not only the situation of unemployment, it is also because we, in that cohort, have been the leaders and the captains of industry, of the bureaucracy and all of that, and we are not managing affairs well. This is a wake-up call to all of us to do what we do and do it properly.
Very well. Thanks for that, Dr. Ishmael Norma. We'll be coming back to you shortly, but let me introduce Mr. Adam Bona. He is the Managing Director of Security Warehouse Limited, and he's here as a security analyst. It's good to have you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great. What is the police to do in this situation?
Say that again.
What is the police to do in this situation? We've heard from the IGP. He said a number of things which we'll be looking at, shortly. But obviously, there needs to be some immediate, steps taken to deal with the situation, because obviously, it appears that there's a certain state of insecurity when it comes to, being out there, going about your regular, everyday business. This unfortunate woman who died, going about her business, hawking, and this happens. So, what are we to do as a people, and what's the police to do? They're telling us we should manage our expectations.
Yes, thank you very much, Abna, and good morning to my co-panelists and my big brother, Dr. Norman. And also, let me apologize for getting here late. It's unlike me, but I didn't know.
No problem.
They've blocked everywhere.
Because of their...
I didn't know. I mean, I literally got in front of, what's the name, Christ the King, and I had to go around Laboni before getting to this place. So viewers...
Take note.
Take notes. It's unlike me. I usually arrive for my program.
That's fine.
Early.
You're welcome.
Yes, but what can the police do? I think that the police knows what to do. Their own data, their own statistics, and their own probably documents they have in their custody tells them in situations like this what they must do. But I would want to probably reiterate some of the things that I know in crime fighting can be done in the short term. What needs to be done in the short term, if you ask me, which they have done in the past in fighting this type of, probably call it surge in violent crimes, is to quickly relook at the positions, reshuffle. If you know the psyche or the mentality of the criminal, once the criminals feel that they are ahead of you because they know who you are, they've been dealing with you, they tend to learn your own models, how you probably go about attempting to arrest them, or collecting data on them, who they are, and the strategies you have used. They would have also found, come up with other ways of beating, what you have perfected, or what you have perfected, which sometimes isn't working. And so in the past, I would always refer to 2018 thereabout, when we had this Royal Motors, crime where somebody was shot in broad daylight. You remember, there were police officers there with guns, MTTD officers, and when the guns started, when they started firing, they had to dash up, they need to run. I think we had several other incidents, including where an expatriate, this Asian, Middle Eastern guy, was also killed after, collecting some huge sums of money to go pay his factory hands and all that. What David Asante Apietu did as a then was to immediately restructure the Ghana police and, add 1 or 2 more units to strengthen the already existing strategy and to ensure that the criminals would have to almost immediately stop. Usually when that happens, immediately what happens is that they stop. They take some steps back to re-look at the new officers who have been moved, from one position to the other, see how are their temperaments, So, for instance, you look at my good friend.
That the criminals actually study all of that.
Oh, they do, yes. I mean,
and they take those into consideration
to determine
yes, what they do.
So, for instance, you have heard my good friend Kofi Wachi speak that you can run, but you cannot hide. You see, crime fighting is like the stock exchange. So that one you do a bit of changes, either the reaction will be negative for the criminals and positive for the crime fighters. So that singular statement from Kofi Wachi, and the criminals probably knowing the temperament of Kofi Wachi when it comes to dealing with fighting criminals, the big man is talking. So probably you are going to have a day or two without, you are going to go a day or two without these criminals trying to strike again.
But that's not sufficient, a day or two.
No, when I say a day or two, they want to see real action. They want to see real action. And so I go back to David Asante-Apietu. So what he did was to basically get, what do you call it, the motorbike, the mounted motorbike units, not the dispatch riders. Those were people who were geared up, combat ready with sidearms, that way if you were a criminal and you were a motorbike, they can chase you up and get you. There were stops all over the place, making sure there were certain vehicles, and crime rate dropped. He also put together...
Just saying that was an efficient thing, or effective?
It was very effective in the short term.
In the short term.
Immediately, one of the positions he added to the other units, to already existing department and unit, had to do with the intelligence units. Because at the moment, what is not helping crime fighting is our ability to collect intelligence. We have no intelligence at all on who these criminals are.
Briefly tell us, why is that? Because obviously the work of policing cannot be done without intelligence gathering. And so if you say that that is missing, then perhaps we should know why exactly that is.
It is missing because over the years, after 9/11, call it various nations started working together. Because 9/11 happened because of lack of coordination among the security agencies. But if you come here, national security, which is supposed to be coordinating, is almost like on its own. And so within the national security, their core mandate has to do with coordinating, collecting intelligence, analyzing the intelligence and evaluating and making sure that if it has to do with terrorists trying to come in, which unit within the armed forces has to react, or which units within the Ghana police we have to react. At the moment, intelligence, we don't have that.
But
you
why
can
is
see
that?
it is that way because you go to we have the career intelligence officers who were recruited the proper way. I have asked that, show me any advertisement that is saying that national security is recruiting.
But would they do that? Would they do that openly?
What I'm trying to say is that they don't do that openly. But you and I know that largely that institution has been bastardized. So that we haven't been able to divorce it from the politics. So who are there? Excuse me to say it's too early, but I say you have an intelligence organization that is largely packed with unintelligent people. When you have that mismatch, because amongst the security agencies, the creme de la creme is within the national security. Because with that, you take your best and put them there.
Very well.
But unfortunately, even though we have career intelligence officers in all the regions and the district, these people probably are not given what is expected of them to work.
Is that probably, or that they are not given?
They are not given. You have those who probably came in through the political back door are the people who seem to be doing the work. And so sometimes you have national security officers even storming a district without telling the district police commander. And I mean, you are a lawyer, you know what I'm talking about. These cases are in court. And so mine is that you have a police that probably, don't have the requisite experience to collect intelligence.
Well.
You have a CID that don't actually even have a detention center.
Well.
So they arrest these criminals and they have to still go and keep them some. So these are the myriad of issues.
Very well. Dr. Anotado, let me come to you. The bit about intelligence gathering, how much of an issue is that? I mean, the lack of it that we are hearing about, how much of a contributory factor is it to the situation?
Okay, so we need to categorize it. If we're talking about the crimes internally, you're talking mainly about the police CID unit. And the fact that they really, you see, the police have the mandate to prevent and detect crime. Yeah. And in addition to that, when culprits are identified or suspects, they have to arrest them. And they also have to protect lives and property. So they just have to do what they are mandated to do. Give them the resources, let them do this. Now, within the current situation we find ourselves, in terms of prevention, if there is a tip-off of some armed robbery going to take place somewhere, the police must be up and doing and must be proactive. So what does that mean? Partnerships. The civilians, the police, they must work hand in hand to get things done. But is the trust okay? Because if you go giving information, what is the guarantee that the people you are informing will not also, in a way, get you implicated and it becomes a problem? Right. These are very difficult issues. Again,
so that collaboration between the community and the police.
It's absolutely important. But you see, this thing you ask about, what can be done immediately? I think that in addition to what my brother said, we must begin to again do these checks on the roads. Okay, you know, sometimes you see police mounting barriers and just doing checks, doing all these things, particularly in the night, and of course sometime during the day. It's important. I talked about partnerships. If the police, and I'm using my words carefully, if the police is overwhelmed with the crime situation, they can always call on the military to assist, because they have firepower and they don't joke. They are trained to shoot and kill. And if people are going around killing people, then the police would need support if they cannot do it. I'm using my words carefully. And that's a last resort. So that's also another thing. The third aspect is this. There are people within the police service, I believe, who have the capacity. They've studied the trends. They know some of the crimes that are committed, and they can trace it to where it happened.
Thank you.
Are you allowing these people to work? Let's not say that the police is incompetent. No. People are trained.
They're not well equipped, though.
Some are not well equipped. Indeed, there are some bad elements, and some were also not properly recruited because of political reasons and all that. But those that are in there, and I have lots of friends in senior management, well trained, they go on peacekeeping duties, they excel and everything. Okay, let's get these people to begin to do what they have to do. Give them the chance, they'll perform. So that we minimize also on the politics and all that. If somebody has to go, let the person go. And let the right people who are now at that, top echelon and has the capacity to get things done, do it.
You're saying the politics has taken over the need to protect.
To an extent, if you hear about the fact that people have retired and they're still on contract and all that, 1 year is fine. Extended and all that, there are other people who have new ideas. You have to think outside of the box and get things done. Now, I'm not in any way saying that whoever is in charge is not doing what ought to be done. But you see, when you are doing things and you're not doing it well, changes are required. And it's not only changes within the structure of the police, even institutional. Okay, you consider all these things, and like you mentioned, equip the people with the right resources and let them do their work.
Very well. We've been joined also by Emmanuel Sowate. He's with the Institute of Criminology at the University of Cambridge. Mr. Sowate, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Sowate.
I hear you loud and clear.
Great. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Right. So let's hear from you, your initial reaction to what we had or we, witnessed this week, and your thoughts generally about the state of security in the country.
Okay, your question is in two chief parts. Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Your question is in two chief parts. The first one is quite broad. This report we've heard from so many actors saying so many things, so that is a bit unclear. The second part, which has to do with the general security and safety is a little bit pinpointed, and I'll start with that one, that's referring to the second one. I think that generally a number of things. One, the security of urban policing is first of all an urban phenomenon, generally, policing generally. And there are different variations between security in any country. So you can disaggregate your security across a number of constituents. It can be across gender, it can be residents, it can be urban, rural, it can be so many other constituents that you can disaggregate your data. But I'm sure you have in mind urban crime and urban security, physical security and safety. I think that given the situation that we find ourselves now, including the very vibrant media, social media, we tend to focus very much on the urban settings. And I think that from what I've heard and seen, people are concerned, especially urban residents.
That people are concerned about the situation. So are you suggesting that you get the sense that there's a certain state of insecurity?
Oh, yes. I think that if you are using the media and social media as the basis, yes.
Right. Now let's look at an aspect of this incident which involved
But before that, can I make a point, if you wouldn't mind, please?
Sure, please.
Yeah, cool. I want to point out, because he said a number of things, and I want him to clarify. He talked about that the police could have no secret intelligence at all. Let me quote again. The police could have no intelligence at all, unquote. And then the second one has to do with national security, that the crime should be at the national security. If you can clarify, because I want to make some comment, that's why I want to be sure, and I don't want to assume what you were saying.
Very well, we'll come to that. But there was an earlier question about what, I asked you and you said that was a bit general. You'd come back to that.
Yes, you said that a number of, so if you can be a little more focused for me, maybe the minister said this and this is what he said, maybe the IGP said it, this is what he said, and maybe Parliament, somebody in Parliament said it, because so many people are speaking. So when you say what has gone on in the past week, I'm struggling to get there.
No, the incident itself, that brazen attack, broad daylight attack on the makeshift bullion van, basically that incident, and not necessarily matters that happened thereafter. That incident that happened in broad daylight, and I would want to know your thoughts on that. Mr. Stewart, are you there? Okay, I think we're having some challenges with Mr. Stewart's connection. But let me go to Dr. Norman. Dr. Norman, can you hear me?
Very well.
Right. Let's look at this aspect of it, which has brought about, some statements by the IGP to the banks. The use of these, makeshift vans as bullion vans, obviously raise an issue about the safety of the persons who are in there. And it's interesting that as far back as I believe I'll get the date, but I think the Bank of Ghana issued a statement indicating that banks had to, make arrangements for the use of proper armored bullion vans by July 2023. So they should phase out these makeshift bullion vans that are in circulation and that are being used. Your thoughts on that as a security person? That, you would have a police escort on that kind of vehicle, aiding or helping out with cash in transit movement and all of that?
Thank you, Abena. As we know, as society grows and things change, we also have to change. So the call for proper armored vehicle like Kantanka is producing is a good call. And again, this recent crime attack on the bullion vans is really reviewed the vulnerability of the entire money transit system within the country. It's a good sign that we should do something. I don't think it is going to be too difficult to do it, to get bullion vans that are armored vehicles, because already Kantanka vehicles is doing it in Ghana. We don't support our own. This Kantanka came out with this armored vehicle several years ago, and I don't know of any bank that has ordered one. I'm sure they're going to order it from overseas. and give the money and the business to foreigners. This will not create jobs for us. Imagine all the banks order Kantanka armored vehicles. How many employees do you think Kantanka will be able to take in order to help with the new orders that they are receiving? So I think from the point of view of our preparedness for these kinds of events, is always reactionary, and we don't do a good job at that. It is a good call. It should be done. The Bank of Ghana recognized this problem, I think in 2019, 2020, and they're supposed to get armored vehicles by 2023.
Right.
I don't think we can wait for that period. I think they have to get it now. The banks have money. Look at the amount of profits they declare at the end of every year.
Right.
And they are saying that they don't have money, they can't afford to buy it. That is a shame.
Well, we don't know if it's about money or the fact that perhaps because they've been allowed to do that, of course, then why not continue with that? But Doc, let me have your perspective on that. Because if we're talking about collaboration of institutions, but when you look at the statement that was made by the Bank of Ghana governor a couple of years back, and the ultimatum, if you like, that has been issued by the IGP, there's some variation. Again, raising issues about collaboration. The Bank of Ghana is talking about July 2023, and the IGP is saying by the end of June 2021, which is a couple of weeks away.
Exactly.
So obviously, you get a sense that, well, there's also some lack of coordination there, or perhaps what the IGP is even saying now is just a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And so it raises a whole lot of concerns.
Yes. And see, the whole issue is this, that as state institutions, coordination is very important. Before we go into the media to make pronouncements, there must be some behind-the-scenes communication, dialogue, and all that, so that you come up with one, approach to issues, which makes it. And so the whole issue here is dialogue. Just sit down. Things are happening. Talk. When you talk and you find ways of addressing this, then you present this out, so people then know how things are proceeding. So there's a need to reconcile those positions, but beyond that is this whole issue that, look, monies would always be transported. And if we don't want to do the physical, then of course we would go...
Cashless.
Exactly, cashless and all that. But as long as that exists, let's protect people who are driving and people who are... And it's not rocket science getting armored vehicles to transport. We shouldn't waste time talking about this.
Do you think it should be made a part of the licensing regime of banks so that you should have it, otherwise you can't qualify?
But support from the Bank of Ghana also. Okay, because monies moving from Bank of Ghana, you see they are well guarded, they are well protected. Once they get to the banks, I think it becomes their responsibility. And sometimes you see it's just a small padlock. That's used on some pickup vehicle, struggling to go through. And now these guys are becoming daring because they are on all kinds of, they have all kinds of influences, spiritual and drugs and all that. And
they're not caught at the end of the day.
But which brings another issue, which, Dr. Norman talked about the fact that the youth is not worried whether cases are, people are arrested and prosecuted or not, which is true. But it must be done as a form of deterrent. And when it is done, when armed robbers are arrested, the media must also give coverage. When terms of sentences are mentioned, it must be mentioned when they go to prison. And prisons must be for reforms, not to go produce hardened criminals. There's a whole chain of events which would have discussions other days. But really, the system needs to get working. And when we come to sit here and talk, it must not be that we are just talking and making ourselves seen and known as analysts and all that. We're making suggestions and making contributions to policies, to strategies, to get things done. So I think that it's important that we take these things.
Very well. Mr. Bona, I'll come back to you, but let me quickly go back to Mr. Sowati. Mr. Sowati, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Right.
I hear you.
Okay. Did you get my question? I was asking basically for your initial reaction to that incident that happened in Jamestown and not matters that happened thereafter. So not about what the Interior Minister said or what. Basically, simple as that. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. You are talking about the crime scene.
Exactly.
Right? Okay,
what happened
I'm not
there.
an expert in crime scene management. That is not my field. But generally, what the event, I would say, sends shockwaves and shows that the criminals are taking opportunity to commit more crime. And let me define what I mean by opportunity, and linking it to deterrence. When it comes to deterrence, I'm speaking as a criminologist now. When it comes to deterrence, there are various dimensions of deterrence. We can subsume them under maybe 3 broad umbrellas. There are nuances beneath that. So one is the certainty of arrest. The second is the severity of the punishment. The third is the swiftness of the punishment. And so when people are sure that on their way to commit crime, whilst committing crime, even after they have committed the crime, they will be found out. That brings some level of deterrence to some people. And it's not everybody who will be deterred by all these 3, some in different permutations. So for example, if you take America, anytime there's a terrorist attack, they try to find the groups involved and then go after them. So Osama bin Laden was found after so many years. It has a number of things, including one telling people that if you commit particular crimes against America, they will find you out, and to give an assurance to their people that they are providing the best of security. The severity of punishment also deters some people, and then the swiftness. In the past, the extant literature was showing or demonstrated that the severity of punishment was very effective. But increasingly, as society is evolving, new studies are indicating that it's the certainty of arrest that deters criminal, because so those type of things are very important. Right. Now, when I see opportunity, it doesn't mean that it is like, a place like the Wild West where the security plays no role. No, I think they play a role, but I also think that the criminals are daring. But let me just go back into history. In the just after the 79, early 80s, getting to the mid, there were certain criminals, one of them, Gawayo, Choco Spanner, and the cohorts. They were doing things like this and even worse. And people have even forgotten, a few years ago, even by the turn of the century, the 21st century, in certain parts in Accra, when you're having your phone during the day, and people will come and actually collect the phone from you. And so these things, in terms of the nature, if nature means crime in the open, crime of particular kind, and are not quite new to us. Depending on where and how, and depending on media attention, it takes particular national significance.
Yes, they may not be quite new, but you would think, you would want to believe that over time, perhaps would have, gotten around dealing with these situations in a much better way. But it turns out that it's not the case, and perhaps that's why the concern is.
Yeah, it depends on what you mean by better. So, for example,
I mean, you talked about the 3 things: the certainty of arrests and all those things. I mean, obviously, we are still grappling with those issues.
Yes, I'm not the IGP, so
obviously not.
So I'm not going to say crime occurs in heaven. I'll come to what the IGP said. But in every society, you have evolution of crime and crime response. And so you'd always be having dynamics because society evolves and crime is always going to be.
Okay, so it's frozen there, but I think this is a good time to take a break. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at the motorbike component. You do recall that during the elections, it was a topical issue, it became a political issue, but there are still unresolved issues around that. How do we ensure that the use of motorbikes do not get us into deeper or difficult situations like we find ourselves currently, and many other angles to this. We're looking at the issue of insecurity in the country. This is a key point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
He has a drink filled with malt. Every day he has a drink filled with malt and milk. Every day he has a drink filled with malt, milk, and cocoa. Every day he needs the nutritious goodness of Milo. Milo, the energy to go further. This advert is FDA approved.
I see opportunities to learn and grow when I see Africa and the European Union working together. Continuing my education helped me see new possibilities. I see that when we work together, we are much more powerful than we realize. More than anything, I see I can live my dreams right here in Ghana. My name is Doho Sumaila, a farmer and aggregator providing support to smallholder farmers in Ghana.
The assurance that absolutely none can compare. The peace of mind that nothing could ever be better. The joy that comes with being free to be who you are. And the knowledge that where we're from can guide us to where we're going. Key, a tradition of smiles, a future that's bright. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Introducing Nestle Milo All-in-One Nutrimix. The goodness of malt, milk and cocoa in Milo, and even more milk. Just add to water and enjoy the perfect cup of winning energy. Milo!
Milo! This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Cocoa, piles, hemorrhoids. Could that be a lasting solution to this ailment? Oh yes, you can trust Pylin capsules from Iona Pharmacy. Pylin, P-Y-L-I-N. Do you have protrusions around your anal opening? Do you suffer chronic constipation? However piles manifest in your body, get Pylin. Pylin has been carefully formulated for piles. Pylin is a plant medicine. Remember, P-Y-L-I-N. Pylin is available in all pharmacies, herbal shops and licensed chemical shops across the country. For bulk purchase, contact Iona Pharmacy, Accra 0553 134 185, Kumasi 0243 123 224. Pylin, the lasting solution for piles. Not recommended for pregnant women, lactating mothers, and children below 12. This advert is FDA approved.
Every day he looks after his brother and chases a bus. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, and learns new things. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, and gets back home. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, gets back home, and helps his mom. Phew. That's why every day he needs his cup of Milo filled with the nutritious goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa. Milo, the energy to go further.
From Nestle.
This advert is FDA approved.
When we started at 12 as another TV cooking show, we showcased their cuisines, introduced you to their recipes, and told you tales of our chefs. Thanks to your viewership, it's grown into a cooking brand embraced by a lot more of you and the best of chefs. It's phenomenal. It reignites the passion for cooking if you ever had it, opens you up to new food ideas if you are willing to try. It's where dreams are formed. A beginner's dream of cooking their favorite meal, dreams of owning and running a huge eatery, of sitting among soups and stews and telling culinary tales. Now tune in and open up Chef Diaries with us. Watch all of these super Afro chefs in the sub-region and experience their world-famous recipes as they tell tales of their culinary journeys.
Chef Diaries is brought to you by
TBG. We stand with you.
And supported by Tasty Tom. Strength comes from within.
Chef Diary shows Saturdays at 5:30 p.m. on TV3.
This Saturday on Music, we have the legendary voices, the Hip Life duo joining us.
Worldwide.
This group thing doesn't belong to me, Joshua or Andrew. It belongs to people out there. They accepted the brand.
Music shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
They've danced. You've laughed.
Hey, y'all, come look at this.
They've sung.
I fall for you.
You've shouted. They fought. You've tweeted. They knocked. You've teased.
Pains P-double-T, pains.
They've cried. You've chopped. They've choked. You've posted.
Everybody won. Everybody won. Everybody won. You want to go and take two. Why? You want to go and take two. Why?
There's never been a more exciting show on television. And now is the time to reward the real stars of the show. Who is the most popular male? Who is the most popular female? Couple of the season. Most interactive viewer on Facebook. Most interactive viewer on Twitter. Dates Rush Viewers' Choice Awards.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, and on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. So we have in the studio Dr. Prosper Nino Teado, also Mr. Adam Bona, and on Zoom we have Dr. Ishmael Norman and Emmanuel Sowate. I'll go back to Mr. Sowate because he was making a submission when his connection went bad. Mr. Sowate, can you hear me? Mr. Sowate?
No, I hear you loud and clear.
Great, great, good. So, unfortunately, the tail end of your submission, got cut off because we couldn't hear much. If you could just complete that. And then also, let's bring in the bit about the use of technology in assisting with, effective arrest and resolution of crimes or investigations.
Okay, thank you so much. So, I was trying to compare a number of things. You talked about better, so I was trying to interrogate the word better. And I was saying that sometimes better can be conceived in terms of maybe you have in mind more vehicles, more science lab, more people with particular skill and expertise, more motivations and things like that. That is true. But I was trying to make a point that you see, sometimes you might have all this and people's sense of security and safety might be less than, for example, 20 years ago and 30 years ago when they didn't, when I say the police didn't have all this. In other words, the situated meaning and the situated implications of security and safety can be conceived differently. So you might have two periods, repeating myself. One period might say that these people were ill-trained, these people didn't have so many cars, they didn't have so many science lab, but the sense of people in that generation was better than now that we have all these gadgets. So, for example, just a quick one. There are sometimes in certain communities, because of the notions of, for example, refugees, you might find that when there are new inflows of refugees into a particular community, the statistics of the crime might be the same, but people's sense of physical security and safety might actually plummet. And so when you are looking at better in terms of logistics, you also have to be careful that when you think that people's sense of security and safety is coterminous with, a lot of resources for the security, that argument might be flawed. The other thing, quickly, before I come to your question about technology, is Bona talked about the national security being the best place to have the crime de la crime. I wanted him to explain that, but let me make my point, and then if he wants to. If national security is National Security Council Secretariat. The Secretariat is not made for operations, but over the years, and the two major parties are culpable, over the years, we are turning the National Security Council Secretariat into operations. But that is not the idea. The idea is a secretariat to the National Security Council. So they are supposed to do, for example, just taking information, best doing analysis at best, and then sending it back to the various actors. They become like the swivel chair around which all the security issues will come, and then they will try to coordinate it and then go back to the council. The council will bring directives and then they send it back to the agencies. The best people are supposed to be in DNI. The best people are supposed to be with the police. The best people are supposed to be with MI. The best people are supposed to be with the institution, not National Security Council Secretariat. It's very important because, you see, this route that we are going, it will come to a time where the National Security Council Secretariat will start having so much operations that not only would they be parading as maybe police, military, immigration, but it will be an avenue where we shall put party boys there.
And that will water down the essence of that particular institution. So,
right.
for example,
I mean, you're right, because the ML Short, commission report on the Ayawaso West Wagon clearly raised these issues.
And let me end on that and under the technology. Remember what Apietu did. What Apietu did in that particular case was phenomenal. And there are other IGPs who have also done fantastic over the years. Okay, now you see, there was a car that was painted in police colors. And the IGP said that this is not a police vehicle. People have not paid attention to what that means. Because you cannot have an institution, a National Security Council Secretariat, painting cars or parading cars as though the car is for the police, but it's not. So to what extent would they have uniform, put people in uniform, and send them out in different names of institutions when the institution itself does not know? So although it was just one particular incident, as a nation we have not. And sometimes I'm surprised at Parliament, because such a thing, Parliament should ask very critical questions. I know that from 92, when you look at the Hansard, very awkward, very difficult questions are always asked by the opposition. It doesn't matter whether NPP or NDC. It's the opposition. But in that respect, the opposition has consistently done well, whether for political reasons or not. But I think that we should make sure that National Security Council Secretariat keeps to its core mandate and stop doing this operation. It's a major problem people don't see. But it worries me. It worries me because repeating myself 2 times in 1 minute, that is where the party boys can start parading a state institution, and that is how you start putting in heavy doses of active partisan politics into security and intelligence. And we have to check that in. Now, to your role of technology, technology is very important. I mean, you can do very few things without technology, and I think that the role of technology is important. Once you start talking about technology, you have to start talking about the subcultures of institutions and how subcultures can gradually change. It's long term, can gradually change to accommodate different types of technology. You train people who will not only install but also maintain the technology and also appreciate the role of the technology, because the technology will always come to compete with some of the established subcultures, and those tensions sometimes do not help, because the ultimate goal is to make sure that you have a better society. Now, my final point, final.
Right, final.
IGP, I think that IGP, what he said, I think was a bit wrong. It was that there's...
which specific statement?
It's only in heaven that there's no crime. I think it is wrong. I think it was a bit insensitive.
What statement, exactly?
Right. But at the same time, I also believe that is me. I believe that we shouldn't use that against him strongly. We should criticize him. But I would not say that because of that statement, he should resign. And this is the reason. The reason is that this man has been in the service, I'm sure, close to 30 years. Sometimes people would make mistakes, and those mistakes, it's true that they can be heavy mistakes. It's true that the context, it's a painful context that he made that statement. But at the same time, you see, when you are dealing with media, and you are an expert in media, sometimes you might make mistakes and regret. So for me, we should hold him accountable to some of the security issues. But I would not say that just because of what he has said, and I'm not saying just as something that is not important. What he said was wrong. But
we shouldn't use that necessarily to get him.
Tell him to resign.
Very well. No. Point well made, and I'm sure he'll be grateful for your intercession there. That's Mr. Emmanuel Sowate.
I don't know him. He's not my friend.
I didn't say that. Institute of Criminology, University of Cambridge. But obviously, you're appealing. You're saying something that would inure to his benefit. So that's why I'm saying you're interceding. Okay. But that's fine. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Sowate. We're grateful for your time.
Pleasure.
Right. A number of issues raised there, but I know, Mr. Bonner, you wanted to talk about the bullion van.
Yes, so let me react to my friend, my brother, Sowate, yes. I think maybe he didn't listen to my issue about creme de la creme when it comes to the security agencies. I have been a strong advocate.
And that's just in 30 minutes because we don't want to keep on rearguing this issue.
I have been a strong advocate for scrapping, what do you call it, the operational wing of the national security. But we all know the Securities and the Intelligence Act, we now have BNI now metamorphosed into NIB. But unfortunately, if they were collecting enough intelligence, and so, yes, it's a secretariat, but it's a secretariat that hosts the intelligence agencies. So I need to
but like I told him, or the Emil Short Commission report on the IOS made things very clear. There are those challenges that we need to deal with. So that's fine.
To deal with your core mandate. Now, with regards to technology. So, for instance, I probably an expert in this area when it comes to technology and some of the things. So I have also been a strong advocate for police officers not escorting money and high risk commodities. If you go to other places, for instance, Britain, America, which the IGP stated, you will not see, either a metropolitan police officer, maybe in London or somewhere, sitting in front of a bullion van. We have bullion vans in grades.
Because they have the
when I
necessary...
say we have bullion vans in grades, and these bullion vans do not belong to the banks. These bullion vans would belong to a pool, maybe for a number of security organizations, and they are usually rented out. And these bullion vans are so much high-tech that if even you fired a bazooka into it, and the bullion van felt threatened at a certain impact, the money in the bullion van gets destroyed. These bullion vans, which you want to say cash in transit or whatever,
bulk cash transportation,
usually are connected to the central bank by way of technology. So you go to, let's say, maybe TV3 to take money from TV3. All the money you are taking from TV3 are scanned. And as you scan them real time, the serial numbers end up at, the central bank. So the money you are moving, if anything happened and this money got stolen or bent out, the central bank knows that they have 2 million cedis that you were bringing and is destroyed. So the bank would pay for the reprinting of that money, and that will not create any inflation. I was in the United Kingdom. I was still there when the Securitas bank robbery, cash robbery took place, 54 million pounds. And I still remember when the incident happened, we got up one morning by 9 a.m. we heard of robbery of 54 million pounds. And within minutes, the central bank had flagged all the money. By 12, I think, same day or so, they had arrested the first person who attempted spending some of the money. Because then the central bank had flagged,
that's because they had
the serial numbers.
So the technology part of it, yeah.
So the first person who went to, I think, a bank or a shop to buy, then they called the police to arrest her. I think within 24 or 48 hours, they had arrested most of the guys. So my point is that the police, the police are there to protect. It is not properties and lives. It is lives and properties. But unfortunately, we seem to be putting properties first because then you will realize that the police officer sits in front of the bullion van, and when they fire the gun, it goes through him before the guys go to the back of the bullion van to the pickup to destroy it and steal the money. So I would say let's use technology. I have said that our ability to collect information from crime scene is impeded. So they go to a homicide scene. How many homicide units or department, or call them unit, do we have in this country? Probably at just the police headquarters here in Accra and maybe Kumasi. I don't know whether there is even one in Kumasi. Sure. So these are some of the things hampering collecting information when it comes to
and bringing closure to which is what I raised. But Dr. Nortiado, the bit about use of technology and why that is key for me is because, like Mr. Sowati said, the certainty of arrests would go a long way to deterring subsequent activities. And so technology towards that area would help. And this comes into, it brings into question the bit about CCTVs in, if you like, urban areas, whether or not we have them, and if they are there, how well functioning they are, and all of that. We keep talking about these things, but we never get them into reality, or get them to yield the benefits we want them to yield.
I was glad to see some security cameras being installed in strategic places within the metropolis. And I think lots more must be done. Now, if those are replicated, and we also have individual CCTV cameras in shops, forex bureaus, supermarkets, and all that, they complement. And what that does is basically to record. I think over a period of 2 months, then it gets destroyed and then others get produced and all that. But to be able, that's how outside they're able to track people who commit crime, and they are then able to trace them to where they stay and all that. And it's a whole system. Data on people must be accurate, perhaps through the national identity process. Does the police have those data to be able to trace criminals to specific locations, houses where we stay and all that? If a motorbike jumps a traffic light, right now they drive through the red like nobody's business. No. Are you able to then quickly go meet up the person and effect an arrest and all that? So it's absolutely important. We cannot escape from it. Right. I heard recently also they want to mount cameras on these offices. That would also help a lot in terms of minimizing corruption, but in terms of also helping or aiding in getting culprits arrested.
Very well.
So I think it's important.
Very, very important. Dr. Norman, are you there? I think we lost Dr. Norman there. But let me come to the issue about motorbikes, because inherent in this issue, or at the heart of this issue, is the use of motorbikes. And what happens with motorbikes is it aids the mobility of the perpetrators. They are here 1 minute, the next minute they are gone. You're not able to track them down and all of that. Yet, motorbikes continue to remain a very important part of transportation system in the country. How do we balance this issue? Getting them, yes, use them for transportation when necessary, but also in curbing crime, because continually the use of motorbikes is at the heart of crimes.
Well, yes. Now, I would have wished that there would be a policy directive to limit the number of motorbikes we are bringing. I think we already have too many motorbikes in the country. Secondly, the use of motorbikes would have to be properly regulated. When I say regulated, these guys do not obey any road traffic regulation. They are either cutting you from the right, or they are cutting you from the left, or from the front, or from the back. So sometimes you are trying to back up, you look, if you don't, your car doesn't have a reverse camera, you could just kill one of them. You take off your eye, you want to swerve, and one of them is on your right or your left. The incident that happened at, what's the name? Jamestown. Assuming motor riders in this country were to be obeying road traffic regulations, at a traffic light stop, if all of us stop and criminals go to steal money or they use motorbikes to commit a crime, chances are that when you get there and we have all stopped and you go through, you are easily going to be identified by the people who probably who have stopped. That, oh, these people, what is wrong, and they've gone through. If there were cameras, chances are that you are able to also use the cameras quickly to respond and say, these people, why did they go through traffic? But unfortunately, the motor riders, and if you've noticed, we now seem to have 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 14-year-olds who are sitting on tricycles, motorbikes, and riding around town, no helmet, no nothing, and we are watching. And so I think it has to do with enforcement.
Very well.
You need somebody who would run the police, who would say that, to hell to you guys, if I get you punished.
Yeah.
I think once the enforcement regime is so stringent, I'm telling you that, I mean, Ghanaians, we are not too much lawbreakers. The truth is that when you don't enforce, then
exactly.
We'll break the law anyway.
Yes. Doc, your thoughts on the motorbike situation?
No, I think,
and then concluding remarks would look quickly at the IGP's statement in respect of this issue as well.
Yes, okay. So I think that two key words, vigilance and also the partnerships I talked about. If you get the number of the motor vehicle, let them fly out of this world. You can still trace the bike to somebody and get those people arrested. So we all must be vigilant. And the partnership bit has to do with the fact that these people come from somewhere. They slept at a home. They have friends around and all that. And so please civil relations, civil military relations, all those things be encouraged and intensified. And it's all built on trust. But you see, I must make a point here. Give police all the weapons they need. Give them all the resources they need. Motivate them all you want and everything. Values are very important. If morals are corrupt or corrupted, you do all these things in vain. So to what extent are we working on all these issues of security culture, the values, the morals? They're extremely important and play vital roles in addressing crime. On the IGP's statement,
he said we should manage our expectations, that crime happens everywhere.
Yes, I agree, and it's all across, and that's the very reason why the police are meant to prevent, detect, arrest, and protect.
Very well, Mr. Adambona.
Well, I think that was an unfortunate statement he made, considering where he made the statement when one of his own officers had been shot dead in that gory manner. And if you saw the first images that were flashed, you don't want to see it. And so I thought that where he said it, he shouldn't have said that. And as for, manage expectations, it's only having that there's crime. I say that he's not the IGP. He's not the IGP for heaven. He's the IGP for Ghana. He's not the IGP for West Africa. He's the IGP for Ghana. And I pay my taxes as a citizen of this country. And so mine is that if he's tired and supposed to go on retirement, they should push him out and get those who can do the job to do it in a way that all of us don't become victims in our own backyard, because some of us, you can't go and live anywhere anymore. You are here. And so some of us will speak this way. And I say that I work with all of them, all the ranks, all of them. So it is not a personal thing, but I think that when you are tired.
Why do you say he's tired?
Or he's retired. He's gotten 2 extensions. And so I keep saying that at this point, you need to leave for others to come. That way, fighting crime becomes more effective. And so that statement, I think, is unfortunate. But now let me add, let's not forget that at the same spot, a woman was shot dead.
Definitely.
You are a lawyer. And I'm sure as lawyers, human rights and, these things are things that you should be advocating for. I want to see the Ghana police and the Ghana government, whilst they talk about compensation for the woman, the police officer, can they also be, I haven't seen any real thing. They have not visited the family of this woman. I want to see them, because if the police, if they didn't go closer to where the woman was, the woman wouldn't have been shot dead. So are we going to compensate the woman, her families, compensate her families, so that at least it would help those around. If they have any information, they know that if I give it to the police, chances are that if anything happens to me, I could be compensated. So he talked about police-civilian relationship. This enhances it. So I think that let's not just over-concentrate on the police officer who is dead, but the woman. Every life lost is important. So let's put premium on that woman's life also.
Definitely, every life lost is important, and so we need to talk about that. But we do hope that we get our security system into much better shape and in a position that we all feel very much secure. And so once we are looking at protecting the police to protect ultimately the citizenry, we do hope that we make some major inroads in that on that journey. Let me put it that way. But let me say a big thank you to you, our guests. It's been an exciting conversation. We've had Dr. Prosper Ninote Ado. He's a defense and security analyst, but with the liaison office, African Union liaison office in Sudan, Khartoum. But let me emphasize, he came here in his personal capacity as a defense and security analyst. Also, Mr. Adambona, managing director of Security Warehouse Limited. And on Zoom, we had Dr. Ishmael Norman, President and CEO of the Institute of Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies, and also Mr. Emmanuel Sowate, Institute of Criminology, University of Cambridge. We'll take a break. When we come back, we look at presidential jets and the politics around that. See you shortly.
For 20 years, Chemo has gone the extra mile to beautify homes across Ghana. We offer a wide variety of world-class bathrooms, tiles, kitchens, and interior finishing, giving customers the peace of mind they need to relax and create their dream spaces. We assure you of unbeatable offers, expert advice, and premium customer care. Locate our showroom on the Spintex Road, close to Manette Junction, or call 0900 200 000. Follow us on social media at Chemo Home. Chemo, relax, dream, create.
Impressor oil na capsules kura ahoɔdenno a ɛboa eyi yawa a ɛnam sasabro usisi wachiri bremo ne afe waposo nyinaa firi nipadua no mu. Impressor capsules kura ahoɔden a etumi boa esiesie no mpa a ɛho akokwa nea ntokrontokro deda mu ɛne afe waposo gregra awewe no nyinaa esiesie no ɛma no ahoɔden foforo kura. Wopɛ aduru a wobetumi de wo ho atoso na ayi wo honam yaw nyinaa de a ɛne impressor ne aduru a wɔn a ɔwɔ yɛfunuyade mpo etumi no mbie sɛ wonom impressor capsules na wo de impressor oil twitwi bia a ɛyɛ wo ya no a ɛne ɛne wato adi yaw bedwane ntɛm so kura. Wopɛ impressor capsule ne oil ibi ato a kɔ pharmacy, licensed chemical shop ana herbal shop a ɛbɛn wo mu. Ɛtufom frɛ Iona Pharmacy Limited ɛwɔ 0553 134 185 ana 0243 123 224. Impressor Yao Bidjani. This advert is FDA approved.
Take a trip down memory lane with us. Tune in this Saturday, 9 p.m. on TV3 for the broadcast of the 2020 EMY Africa Awards. Relive the beautiful moments as we celebrate our fathers on Father's Day and prepare for the 6th EMY Africa Awards. Visit www.emyafrica.com or at EMY Africa on all our social media platforms for more updates.
TV3 and 3FM are the official TV and radio partners of the 6th EMY Africa Awards. Every day he has a drink filled with malt. Every day he has a drink filled with malt and milk. Every day he has a drink filled with malt, milk, and cocoa. Every day he needs the nutritious goodness of Milo. Milo, the energy to go further. This advert is FDA approved.
The Saturday mornings will never be the same again.
We will bring you the best mix of sports and lifestyle content on Warm-Up Plus.
We will interview exciting professionals from different fields of endeavor, including sports and fitness. Give fans an opportunity to show their passion and preview upcoming games.
Discuss what's trending in the world of sports and entertainment, give you lifestyle tips, serve you music, exercise, dance, laugh, and have an absolute ball on TV each Saturday.
So whether you're a fan or you just like fun,
you will absolutely love Warm-Up Plus.
Warm-Up Plus shows live Saturdays at 10 a.m. only on TV3.
34 years in the industry and still relevant. So who's the eldest?
That's the one with the gray hair.
Know. The one with the gray hair?
Yeah.
Where's your gray hair? Oh. You were summoned by the family.
Yeah, my mom, my big sisters, they were all sitting down. I said, Ebusavo, the baby is about 20 minutes. You are school debut. Hey. Yeah, pong. You see the palms debut. Pain. Let's go. Tell me, I said, hey, let's go. Come on.
Bold. Still very agile and extremely playful, but serious about their mission.
Clients can be very, very stressful sometimes. They want you to do exactly what they've showed to you. They're expecting to look the same as what they are seeing in the picture.
Who's the most stubborn?
Me. Yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay, I know what's going to happen at this point. You know what happens with twins? You don't want to miss this.
Today's Woman shows Sundays at 3 p.m. and repeats on Fridays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
This Saturday on Music, we have the legendary voices, the Hip Life duo joining us.
Where the party there to worldwide.
This group thing doesn't belong to me, Joshua or Andrew. It belongs to people out there. They accepted the brand.
Music shows every Saturday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
If you've ever been in need of dire help and all hope is lost, the doors are closed, then you understand there's power in the words, how can we help you? These are reassuring words that bring hope to the hopeless and relief to the brokenhearted. Have fun and make money while doing it to help a friend, a loved one, your neighbor, or even your community. Can't see, right?
Yeah.
Munio! What shall
Menu.
Compass.
There you go. Oh, man. How was I supposed to know what you were doing? How can we help you? Let's have fun while making a difference. Proudly brought to you by First National Bank.
First National Bank. How can we help you?
How can we help you? Show Sundays at 5:30 p.m. on TV3.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to the Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7, online at 3news.com, and also on Facebook at TV3 Ghana. So we're moving on next to look at the conversation about presidential jets. And this week, the Defense Minister, Honorable Dominic Nituwo, was in Parliament to answer a question that had been tabled by the MP for North Tongu, Honorable Samuel Kujetu-Abrakwa, regarding the chartering of a presidential jet for the president during his recent working visit to France. The defense minister gave a number of responses, and there have been subsequent discussions about that. We shall be interrogating all of that on the show from this point on. He alleges that Honorable Sam Okujetu-Ablakwa, that the cost of the chartering of a presidential jet came to some 2.8 million cedis plus, and questions are being asked about the state of Ghana's presidential jet, which is the Falcon, and why wasn't that used? Now in the studio to have that conversation with me, we have, from my extreme left, I have Mr. Richard Ahiagba. He's the former executive director of the Dankwa Institute, and next to me is Mr. Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, former Deputy Minister of Information. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's good to have you. We're happy to have you here. We're expecting to be joined by another panelist when he comes through. We will do the needful and introduce him accordingly. But before we go into the conversation here in studio, let's take a listen to some sound bites from the Honorable Samuel Kujetu-Ablakwa, and then we'll also take a sound bite from the Minister for Defense, Honorable Dominic Nituwo. So let's take a listen to these.
And looking at the order paper for today, the question that was advertised for the Minister responsible for finance on the cost of the President's recent travels to France, Belgium, and South Africa is conspicuously missing from today's order paper. And Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering what is the cause of this rather strange development. That's why I'm on my feet, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member, your question is not before me anyway. Anyway, leadership, you...
Well, Speaker, for what I know, it's the Speaker who admits question, and then when the questions are admitted and answers are ready, they are accordingly advertised. So I could make a reasonable deduction, and it's a fair deduction to make. But probably the answers are not ready, that is why it is not captured. So the Honourable Member may want to find out from the Speaker's office why the question was not advertised.
That should be. Yes, minority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, the business committee met this morning. Sincerely, I couldn't take part in the meeting. I understand that the matter was discussed and the minister has asked for a rescheduling of the question. So the question, I would engage my colleague. As I said, indeed, the Honorable Dr. Senator tried to reach me when she meeting, but I was held up in another discussion. So the Honorable Ablako, I'll persuade you that the question will be rescheduled and the Minister of Finance will come and respond to it, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The simple answer I would have given to the question asked by the honorable member would have been a simple yes. The Falcon EX is with registration number 9G-EXE is serviceable. But as members will now appreciate from my explanation earlier, the decision to travel particularly to long and multiple destinations, such as the president traveling to France, Belgium, South Africa, and back to Ghana, especially during this COVID time, would always require a larger capacity aircraft, such as a BBJ or an aircraft ACJ 319U, even when the Falcon is airworthy. If you wanted to travel, for example, from Europe to South Africa, he has to do a technical stop. And it is not desirable. When the president, as again said, when the president is traveling with more than 20 people for a business trip, as this president has done, and brought in more than 75 million for this nation, he will need more than just a Falcon. Otherwise, the people would have to go a day ahead of the president to prepare themselves. The president, in fact, has to go a day ahead because no president can shower in this aircraft. You cannot freshen up in this aircraft. So you cannot move from this aircraft straight into a meeting. If you are using a commercial plane, Mr. Speaker, it's the same thing. If you are going and you stop by Emirates, the Dubai government will have to give you courtesies. When you are going to the United Kingdom, the United Kingdom government will have to give you courtesies that are not necessary. That is the reason why the Togo government, the Togo president, Mr. Speaker, in the last ECOWAS meeting for 30 minutes, he chartered the same aircraft that our president chartered in France. He chartered the same aircraft. So, thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right. So those were scenes from Parliament this week. The person speaking last there, obviously, being the Honourable Minister for Defence, Honourable Dominic Nitiwul there. Let me announce quickly that we've been joined by Dr. Lord Mensah. He's a senior lecturer at the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School. Good morning, Doctor. It's good to have you.
Yeah, good morning, and good morning to our viewers.
Right, good. So we're looking at this issue about presidential jets here. Let me start with you, Ms. Ahiangwa. Briefly, just so you know, we understand, how has the president been traveling since air travels, obviously, since he became president in 2017?
Well, good morning to my co-panelists yourself. It's been a while. Well, I think it's a combination of, commercial flights and with the Falcon state jets, and on this occasion, the rented airplane.
Would this be the first time he's rented?
I'll have to hazard a guess that perhaps this is the first time, but particularly this one, I'm thinking. Phyllis is shaking his head, maybe he has a different information. But as far as I know, this will be the first time.
Right, so he's been using the Falcon, like you say.
I mean, he's used it, and we know there was an instance where they had some scare, and so yes, he's used a combination of means to transport, to travel. And
so why the decision to? I mean, we had the Minister for Defense talk about a number of things that, he couldn't. It's not one that would allow him to freshen up and all of that. Issue about space and all have come up. But then the argument, for instance, is that, well, the Falcon, I believe, is a 15-seater or 16?
The Falcon, yeah, with crew is 15, I think, yeah.
And the argument then is that if this jet that was chartered at such, an exorbitant amount, seats 19, that means a difference of about 3. Then would the need or that argument about capacity, would that hold? Would that be tenable?
Yeah, so that is one way to look at it, but I wouldn't look at it from the capacity, exclusively from a capacity standpoint. I look at it from the safety standpoint, which I believe is the predominant consideration that anyone should make in terms of transporting the president of the country. And so,
but was that the predominant consideration, listening to the defense minister? Did that come through?
Yeah, that came through.
That was the prominent.
Yes, I think when you look at his written statement, he made allusions to that the safety of the crew and the passengers on board was a primary consideration. But then he said other things also. But then we need to apply emphasis where the emphasis is due. And I think that the safety of the President of the Republic, I think, is paramount to me, and it's worth spending to ensure that we keep him safe to be able to arrive at his destination to do what business he must do for the benefit of Ghana.
Quickly, if I move to Felix, speaking about the safety issue, we heard the defense minister there talk about the fact that it's in a good state, it's airworthy.
Absolutely.
Sorry?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So that, again, that safety argument, do you still stand by that? If that indeed is a predominant consideration we should be making as a people. Not you. Okay, still on Mr. Himba, just as the last.
Oh, yes. You see, so what is our consideration if I am going to fly? Okay. And I have an option between an airline that has a checkered history and then one that can guarantee, based on review, can guarantee my safety to go to where I'm going to. And if I am one making a decision for my child or for my family member, I would want to pay a bit more to make sure that I have that peace of mind to transport my family member. And as a country, we have a responsibility. The president is not the president of one group of people, he's the president of this country. And if this country is invested in that president, then we must make the right decisions to ensure his safety. Now, other arguments may arise about this, you can use this, it is this, is that, which I know Felix is going to make, but I'm saying that what is overriding is that we ensure that our president travel in safety and with all the people who are traveling with him, because in the end we as a country have invested huge sums of money to elect him. Okay, that maybe we should introduce that into the conversation, how much money we spend to elect our president only to want to say that we cannot guarantee his safety. So for me, let's not quibble and play politics with it. Yes, we must be prudent. Yes, we must ensure that we're getting value for money. Those are considerations we'll have. But before that, we must have a conversation about safety, and that for me is overriding.
Right. So we are understanding around the table, and I believe the majority of Ghanaians obviously believe that, yes, key thing to look out for is safety. And for me, I think for a country like Ghana, with the kind of economy we have, we can't have any other consideration. You're looking at safety. And so that is against the backdrop of, this whole conversation. And that's why people are asking questions. If the Falcon, as we've heard it to be, is in good condition, it can send, the president and his entourage back and forth to wherever they want to go, then why spend this amount of money? And by the way, this figure has not been disputed I haven't heard any denials about the amount involved. So then the presumption is that it is the actual figure. And so we can quote it and carry on with the conversation with that. Then why do we engage in that kind of expenditure? And the minority obviously has raised issues about this in Parliament. Felix, let's hear from you.
Yes. Now, good morning to you and cherished viewers. Good morning to my colleague Alex. First of all, there is absolutely no safety concern with the Falcon. And in fact, it is important in this discussion to refer to the statements of the defense minister, because that represents the official position of the government on the matter. The minister did not make any allusion to safety concerns. Indeed, he was emphatic that the Falcon is in good condition, it is serviceable. Indeed, he attempted to justify why, despite the good condition of the Falcon, the president opted for this Acropolis jet, that is ACJ Neo. Now, the minister gave two explanations. His first claim was that the Falcon did not have sufficient reach. In other words, it cannot travel long distances. And so it made its use a bit awkward on this particular occasion. The second explanation he offered was that the Falcon essentially is too small and that it cannot seat a certain number of people, and therefore it made using it inappropriate at this time. Now, we contend that both explanations are not satisfactory because they fly in the face of the facts that are available. Now, it is important to stress that this Falcon that we are talking about is not some medieval contraption. It's not a rickety vehicle. It is a fairly new aircraft. It was purchased in 2010. It was built to specification given by the Ghana Air Force, which controls the presidential aircraft. So it was delivered in 2010. It is regrettable that you don't have pictures of the inside of the Falcon. I have had the privilege to travel with the president on the Falcon before. So I can tell you that it is in pristine condition. In addition to the fact that it is fairly new, it has actually undergone refurbishment as recently as 2018. So it is looking much better than it was even initially delivered. There are no safety concerns. Again, the claim about reach cannot be true. If you go to the website... But
how far can it go? Just
if you go to the website of the manufacturer, that's all. They indicate that the aircraft has a maximum reach of 5,000 miles, which is in excess of 8,300 kilometers.
Into hours, that's...
Hours, that is 9.5 hours non-stop. Now, the distance from Accra to Paris, which I'm sure many of us have been to, is 6.5 hours. In fact, it is 6 hours, 35 minutes. The total distance is under 5,000 kilometers. So, in fact, this Falcon can travel twice the distance between Accra and Paris non-stop. Now, the distance from Paris to Belgium, where the president also went to, is less than an hour. Now, the other leg of the travel was from moving from France or Paris to Johannesburg. All that is required was for the president to move from Paris to Accra, stop for an hour or two, freshen up. He could even go home or to the office, hold a meeting and so hop onto the aircraft and go to Johannesburg and then come back. And we'll be sorted. So the argument about reach simply cannot hold because the aircraft we have has capacity to do that. Indeed, I have gone to France in that aircraft with the president before. That aircraft has gone to New York, which is about 10 hours from Accra, before. And it has gone to Asian countries, it has gone to, it has made transoceanic, transatlantic flights several times. So there is absolutely no dispute that this aircraft could have gone to France and back, or anywhere that the president wanted to go. The second issue about numbers in terms of capacity of the jet, and you raised it earlier. This aircraft, the Falcon we have, can seat 15 people. That is 4 crew members and 11 people. It has been configured so that it can seat 11 passengers with a crew of 4. Now, the Acropolis jet that we went for seats 17 people. At night...
Also, it's actually 17
at night. The way they call it the sleeper load, it has to be 17 people at night because you have to account for the weight and everything. Now, so the difference is 6. We know that on this particular trip, not every member of the delegation sat in the aircraft that was rented. Other members, like the media and other ministers of state, went by commercial flights. So they didn't meet the capacity requirements with this jet in any event. The difference is just 6, as you said. So 6 people cannot justify the reason why we have to incur this expenditure in order to be able to meet the traveling requirements of the president. So there's absolutely no justification whatsoever in terms of reach or range or capacity to rent this aircraft when we have the Falcon available. If the Falcon was not available for any reason, it had broken down, then there will be justification to rent. But even if it was not available and we are going to rent, given all the circumstances of our country, given the difficulties we have, indeed, and I'm glad Dr. is here, he follows the economy closely.
The economic twist.
He will be the first to admit that our economy is in serious trouble. Indeed, only this week, the government statistician put out information that government's expenditure in terms of interest payments and salary payments alone resulted in a situation where we had to borrow in excess of 3 billion Ghana cedis to meet. So we don't even have the money to meet basic commitments like interest payments and salary payments, which is so mundane that every government should be able to do. We don't have that luxury now. So we cannot, in these circumstances, be renting aircraft of this nature. So even if there was a need for an aircraft to be rented, and we have proven that there was no need for it.
And
this is not an aircraft
of this?
we should have gone for. Indeed, it's not the first time we've rented an aircraft. But you rent a modest aircraft, something along the lines of the Falcon, so that we all know that you are feeling the pinch that people feel when you ask them. Government has imposed taxes. Fuel prices have gone up.
We'll come back to that.
We have all been lamenting. So
let me go to
that's a final point before the defense minister also sought to introduce a new angle to the debate by starting slapping in a proposal basically for us to purchase a new aircraft.
We'll go into that.
Yes,
as a way of the way forward. How do we deal with this situation? So please hold on.
Okay, all right.
Hold on to that bit for us, and let me have Dr. Lord Mensah's initial take to this issue. A developing country like ours, we are having issues. We don't have we have a deficit budget we're running all the time, and you hear of 2.8 million Ghana cedis being used for this, raising issues about how effective we are, managing the public purse and all of that. Concerns are being raised by the ordinary Ghanaian. How do you see it? Let us understand from your perspective as an economist, how much of an issue this is.
Good morning once again to my panelists, members. Yes, clearly I understand the dynamics of our politics and then also the dynamics of our economy as well. And then looking at how our culture is feeding into, our political structures. Now, if you look at, the way we decorate our royals, so maybe Otumfo, Ochehene, you can name them. The decoration we give them seem to be feeding into our, political space. In the end, we want to, when we are moving, we want to carry more people behind us to show that we are powerful, And so that notion of decorating our presidency has always been there. And that is even building up, if you look at our parliament, the way we've decorated the place and all those. It gives you the signal that, our culture is really feeding into, our politics. Now, clearly, if you ask me about the economic dynamics of this decision of, spending 2.8 million Ghana cedis to hire a jet, for which we have a jet that is sitting on the tarmac, calling for maintenance costs, calling for, you can name them. In the end, you ask your question, you ask yourself whether in the president's inaugural speech, which he indicated that he'll protect the public purse by ensuring value for money in all decisions as far as this country is concerned. And I was happy when, the first one of the ministries that came up was Ministry for Monitoring and Evaluation, which is one of the ministries to ensure, gives the signal that, there's always value for money as far as decision making is concerned. Now let's look at renting. Now, do you know there are dubious means or reasons why, sometimes in public sector we rent? Let me give you a typical example. When you take those days, we used to have at the GFA, a coach, foreign coach, which we used to house them at in a hotel and paying regular, hotel fees. Now, what prevents us from getting, a building which will have all the specifications, which for me, looking at the dynamics, we've learned from it. And that is why we went to buy this Falcon, to ensure that instead of regular, hiring and renting, which in the end might cost us, because of course when you are renting with dollars and without exchange rate. quite difficult to manage all these things. And so effectively, if the country has managed to purchase a Falcon, and this Falcon, per my co-panelist argument, I should be able to serve, the purpose that it is needed for. So I asked myself, what was the motivation for, renting, such an aircraft? Which is, from the submission now telling us that the difference in passengers is just about 6. What is the economic motivation for doing that? And that is why I'm telling you that there could be a dubious reasons. And the dubious for the fact that we are renting and spending 2.8 million. And somebody might be brokering the deal and saying, okay, mine could be, 1% of it, which is not a small amount anyway. So effectively, we need to understand some of these dynamics. And you see, if you do the cost-benefit analysis for having a certain, airplane, and then bypassing it to go and rent another airplane, which will add on 6 passengers, I don't think you will ensure any value for money as it is expected.
Right.
So, for me, I don't see any economic sense for going to hire a plane unless you want to satisfy a certain, luxury or appetite that you look out for every now and then.
But that cannot be at the expense of the taxpayers' money.
Well, it could be, but then in the end, we have to ensure value for money. Now, if you take, the time that we went to rent this plane, I would say it was a wrong time, because we've read a budget, and in the end, the budget was more or less like an austere, budget. A budget that the intention or the signal is that it will squeeze money from the people. And the monies that are being squeezed from the people, is that how it is going to be used? Those are the questions ordinary Ghanaian will ask.
Asking, definitely.
A situation where we know COVID, has, brought down this economy. In the end, Ghanaians are beginning to understand that, okay, fine, we need to sacrifice. Because my argument, even the budget that was read for 2021, I was some way happy with it, because, sometimes over the years we have been, deferring our responsibilities into the future by more or less, not sacrificing for the country. So when the budget came and it was like, okay, let's increase tax and bait, take hard decisions and then bear the pain now. Maybe things will be soft in the future. But then what do we see? Are we going to add on so that we will not come out of this situation? I don't see, that decision to be prudent anyway.
Very well. We'll take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll go into other aspects of this issue, looking at the justification as put out by the Defense Minister and the subsequent reactions that have come. This is a key point. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We are in the center of the world. We are in Tema. This Sunday at 4 p.m. here on TV3, Ghana's Strongest, the Champion of Champions edition, comes your way again. It's a semi-final. 6 men will appear, but only 4 will venture into the final. 2 will drop out. Who will it be? 4 different tasks have been aligned. Who is going to be making the grand finale? Remember, there's the cash, the title belt, and the car at stake. Also, the first 2 will be making it to South Africa to compete in Arnold Classics. This is all to play for. Who will be making it to the final? Let's see.
Ghana's Strongest 2021, the Champion of Champions edition, every Sunday at 4 p.m. only on TV3. Ghana's Strongest is powered by Gasem, the nation builder. Mixi Choco, Channel Hot,
Calipo, Fruitelli, Iron Man Supplements, Deluxy Super Fix Tile Cement, Give us Co and P capsules, Afromosis and Fimakio X capsules,
Adonko Next Level Energy Drink,
Holy Trinity Spa and Health Farm.
This week on the Ladies Circle, we are talking everything travel.
Dubai, for the most part, was all right, but I did have an encounter with a Russian gentleman who knocked my food off my plate at a breakfast buffet. Big misunderstanding.
The one funny thing we used to do was when we get to a destination, we are going to maybe Paris.
Yeah.
We would look up all the celebrities where they go to the most. You know, it's not a usual thing people do.
Yeah.
And then you go there, you might see someone passing by, take a picture. It elevates your experience.
India's a beautiful place. I haven't been there in a while. You should go there and experience it, the food, the culture, everything.
Bora Bora.
Bora Bora. It can be B, it can be A because they both have two, so we can do.
Aketesia, Messia Paola, Alala, Enosia Mapao.
Dubai, Deba, huh?
Deba. Boy, this is a Jimmy. Join us this Saturday on TV3 at 6 p.m. Do not miss it.
The Ladies Circle, every Saturday, 6 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
Yaz Sanitary Pad, Vodafone, GTP, Still Timeless,
Woodine,
Cowbell, Our Milk.
This Sunday, it's a Date Rush reunion.
Today, I want to give him this. I know it's not much.
Well, this weekend and the next weekend, we have 2 weeks back to back. Date Rush reunion. It's going to be a live show, so you're getting all our couples and some of our singles coming back right here. It will be brutal. We will hear matters.
You don't have to finish this, because if you how can you say you don't like to? That means I'm forcing myself on you. I won't.
Did you or you did not?
Okay, I didn't.
Just hi. Okay, I want to hear this. Let me hear this. I did hear no. They wait for them.
Date Rush reunion. This Sunday, 8 p.m. on TV3.
Date Rush is proudly brought to you by Rush Energy Drink, Deluxy Super Fix Tile Cement, Heaven Insecticide Spray and Coil, Carnival Liquor, and Napa Foods, Everpure Purified Drinking Water, Papa's Pizza, Duffy's Ohima Feminine Mixture, Rings for Less GH,
Piccadilly Biscuits,
Reggie True Vine Natural Health Clinic,
Katwaba Wines, Close Up, Afromosis and Fimakio X capsules.
Give us antiseptic and give us detergents and soap.
NBF Gingival Gel,
Mutlu Battery,
and our digital partner, Airtel Tigo. Treatment of cancer can be very expensive, but there is great hope for Ghanaian teachers.
So, cancer is a deadly disease. It's a deadly disease because the treatment involves a lot of money. And so, if you don't have the wherewithal to undergo the treatment, you will die. But we, as teachers, we know that there is a remedy for us.
You bring along your payslip, and then you also bring along your NAT identity card. And once that is established, you are given the treatment free of charge.
Made possible by the collaboration between the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and the Sweden Ghana Medical Center, SGMC.
Some of our members still not aware that there is a facility like this here.
My wife also talked to her association, which is the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and were attended to promptly.
If you are a Ghanaian teacher and a member of NAT, you enjoy absolutely free treatment of cancer.
If you are a member, your spouse stands to benefit if she happens to suffer the disease. Your daughter, your son also stands to benefit if she also happens to contract the disease.
NAT Hour, a documentary of hope for the Ghanaian teacher, shows Wednesdays at 5:45 p.m. and Sundays at 1:30 p.m. only on TV3.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to the Key Points live on TV3, also live on 3 FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also at TV3 Ghana. That's on Facebook. We're having a conversation about the Minister for Defense, who appeared in Parliament to answer a question about the President's recent working visit to France, which was done on board a private jet that was rented at a cost of 2.8 million Ghana cedis plus to the Ghanaian. And we are asking questions about that. We have Dr. Lord Mensah here in the studio, also Mr. Richard Ahiaba and Mr. Felix Ofosukwachi. We're looking at this issue. Let me come back to you, Richard. We talked about the safety issue, but perhaps I think looking at it, the means may also be perhaps an overriding issue. Yeah. So if you're looking at, do we have the means to even look at this consideration, for instance? That obviously raises the issue, which is what Dr. Lord Mensah was talking about, the economic situation and everything else. So yes, perhaps the safety is there, but the means, and during the break I was saying, people ride on all sorts of rickety vehicles, not because they are not aware about the safety conditions, but that, seriously, I can't afford any other thing. This is what I have to do. Yeah. So as a country, we're not saying, yes, the president should put himself in that dangerous position, but to the extent that this is a country of very little means in terms of, you know, liquidity and everything, how do we even go beyond the fact that, yes, there is a presidential jet, which according to the minister is in good condition, and then go on there? Do you still think it was a good decision? Well, hearing everything around the table.
Yeah, so a good decision is subjective. You can, one thing you will agree is a good decision, another will say it's a bad decision. So really, that is not the consideration.
Financial management, I think we cannot leave that to subjectivity.
Yeah, but that's what it is. And I'm saying that it's not even the point of us agreeing is a good or a bad decision, but we must look at what really the outcomes would be for us if we make a poor decision. Because really you can make...
Where a poor decision is put him on a more modest...
put him on in a flight that you are a bit iffy about safety. And you and I probably will agree post some, knock on wood, some misfortune happening, we'll say, well, but why didn't we think about this to do another? I'm just saying. I mean, these are
necessarily mean a luxurious one.
No, I'm not even considering a luxury. I'm saying that the question of the afterthought of something happening and then you're looking in hindsight to say like we should have done something other than what we did. That is a 50-50 situation with life. And we have to be circumspect once we do the analysis in hindsight to be categorical and say, no, this and that and that and that. We need to look at it. Look, we bought presidential jets in this country before, and I'm beginning to be uncomfortable about calling it a presidential jet because that's not what it is. It's exclusively, okay? So that we bought it in this country before, and the conversations around it has always been, we don't have the money. We don't have the means, okay? But then when our the presidents have to travel, they travel. They travel on airplanes, either we rent them,
but now we have the presidential jet.
Yes, I'm coming with that. And historically, though, our presidents never traveled with numbers of people less than, okay?
We even have to interrogate that issue as well.
Yes, yes. And so they travel with a certain number of people, okay? And looking at it, even with Phyllis's analysis talking about what the ACJ 320 Neo will take, and then what the Falcon can take, in both situations, capacity is still a problem. Okay, if we had used the Falcon, people still would have traveled in a commercial flight. We use the rented airplane, people still traveled. So that comes to a point where you realize that capacity is limited in both ways. Now, what is the remedy? The remedy was provided for, and that's why I disagree with Phyllis in saying that, oh, we've gone past the situation where the buying of an airplane is not a concern because we have one. We don't have an aircraft that is fit for the purposes of our presidential travels that involves a certain number of people. The provisions that were made...
Can we ever have a jet that would be fit for a certain number of people?
Absolutely.
In terms of entourage? Because the
absolutely.
Then,
that was being...
What's a typical size of a presidential entourage? That is... I mean, and that's where we need to come to objectivity. Because when we leave things to the subjective views of people, it becomes a bit iffy.
Yeah.
Because at what point do you say, well, the entourage could be up to 10, or that 20, or that 30, and then you're now, if that's the case, if it's 20, then you're looking at a situation where you need a presidential jet that can seat up to 20? That would be absurd, totally.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that, well, I don't know, that's, I'm saying we can say it's absurd, but the point is that functionally, right, is the president supposed to be enabled by people and supported by a staff?
And the only way they can do that is if they fly on a presidential jet with him.
No, but the only way they can do that is to get them to where they must be to support him.
Yes,
so it doesn't matter how they get there.
At a value for money rate.
Yeah, so I'm saying that it doesn't matter how they get there. But the point essentially is that as a country, we know we must have a means for our presidents to travel.
No two ways about that, yeah.
And so there was a provision that was made for an aircraft capable of doing that.
And
far and above the number any president will want to travel with.
So the Falcon isn't at this rate?
I mean, clearly it wasn't. And it cannot be. Felix talks about a situation where even in their times, people will have to travel on commercial flights to meet the president and do all of that. So that is an accepted way of traveling to complement.
And it's more economical.
Yes, to complement, but then you would have flown the Falcon and then have people meet the president on a commercial flight. And we're saying that in 2009 provisions, and that's why I know Felix doesn't want to talk about that. Okay, a provision was made to get an air flight that is capable of doing that. Fly everybody, not on a split journey where some people are flying on a commercial and some people are flying on the Falcon. But
that's why I'm asking this question.
Yeah.
Can we, as a people, agree that for any given foreign trip our president embarks on, there's a maximum number?
I don't think you can do that.
Exactly. So if we can't, how can we say that we're making provision for a particular type of presidential jet? All I'm trying to suggest is at any given time, the numbers could vary.
Yeah, the numbers vary, and the presidents make this decision subject to what need the travel requires, so that the number of staff that must be there, the number of officials that must be there to ensure the object of that travel is achieved. So it's never going to be just one-ton invitation of people to come, but it will be functional people who are required to be there on the flight.
Do we have the capacity in terms of finances to do those things?
Yeah. So if you allow me a second, in 2009, whilst President Kufuor was living during his last year or so in office, whilst he was living, made a provision for 2 flights, okay, for the Air Force. And that, the Boeing business jet, was supposed to help complement the travels of our presidents. So if you're talking about capacity in the case of Falcon, which is deficient, in the case of the ACJ 320neo, which is also deficient, then you have an option in our fleet of airlines to be able to fly them to wherever they were going to go without the need to want to rent. Now, if you had an airplane with the capacity to transport the entourage that the president was going to take to this trip, and then set aside to go and rent this one, I will be the first one to say that whether subjectivity or objectivity, I disagree with that position. Okay? So we need to be careful and have a conversation that helps us as a country to position ourselves properly for the future. We must engage in the global community. Our president must engage other people. And the need for us to get a flight or airplane or carrier that gives our presidents the capacity and the opportunity to be able to be at these places to functionally execute national requirements, I think that we need to look at it dispassionately.
Definitely.
I appreciate Phyllis's sentiment of, oh, this one and that one. But you see, when you turn the tables around, in their time, decisions were made. No, I'm just coming. I'm just coming. No, we have not. We have not. You see, the point I am making is that if you look at it, I am willing to have an objective discussion. I hear Doc also going back and forth about economic and all of that. But there are decisions that we have made in this country. Ultimately, the motive is what matters. To the extent that we are engaged in ensuring that we are improving and making conditions better for our people, then we must engage in that. When Professor Mills talked about cancelling that BBJ or the Falcon and the BBJ order by President Kufuor, the argument was Ghana cannot afford it. But beyond that, they spent money in doing other things that we can obviously say we couldn't afford.
But they did so. You understand? So the question is that with these flights, airplanes that our country needs, we must just bite the bullet and get the right thing done. Right. And I'm saying that we had opportunity and the NDC cancelled it. So today when we're having these conversations, we must be humble enough to say that going forward, let's make a sustainable decision to advance.
I believe that's what we're trying to do.
Yes, but then, so we have to take away the extreme sentiment to make sure, to make a point that, oh, this is an unreasonable decision. I'm saying that to solve the problem, if we had solved it in 2009, yeah, would we be here?
Well,
I tell you categorically that we will not be here.
The Falcon came.
Yes.
There was so much, noise at the time when the decision to get that jet was, was brought up. But eventually it came. And interestingly, it didn't come. Well, it didn't come during the tenure of President Kufuor.
Of course.
It came into the
Mills'
administration. Yes, but the point is, the argument about size for me is a bit tricky because that it appears apart from the safety argument, that also becomes another argument, and the justification then is because the entourage is so huge, we would need a bigger craft, which at the end of the day will not even be able to accommodate all of the people in the entourage.
I've made that point to you.
Exactly.
I've made that point.
So that takes me into the argument or the issue about entourage and the size of it, the numbers. Isn't it long overdue for us as a country to come to a certain decision that, listen,
to cap the numbers?
Cut it.
Yeah. So we can.
And then we don't, because if we don't, you allow that space for manipulation, if you like, then we're coming up with all sorts of excuses. And Felix, you have been, thankfully, you have been in power. You've experienced
it. Yeah, so we can have that conversation. It's a different track of discussion, myself. I'm willing, and I think that anybody. And I'm saying that it's a discussion focused on solving that problem. To say that we have a Falcon, so going forward, no other plane should be able to carry the president apart from the Falcon. And the numbers must be such that it is what the Falcon can carry. That's a conversation you must have, not necessarily to punch to say that, oh, you have gone to rent that one.
Yeah, because but we'll bring that in as well, because it's, so far as it pinches the citizen, because we'll definitely talk about that.
You see, I think it makes the point, and Felix also made the point earlier, about the difference between what Falcon can carry and what the Acropolis aircraft can carry. At about 4 or 3, about 4 actually. So if it's 4, the value of that 4 people or those 4 people being on the trip is inestimable. We cannot at this point estimate because they're just 4 people. Okay, can we estimate what their absence would have cost us? So that's why we need to have a clear conversation, devoid of sentiment. And I appreciate Felix's candor in having the conversation. But let's understand that we need to be forward-looking about this thing and also appreciate what efforts that's been made that unfortunately was upended by the NDC administration. But going forward, let's agree that we want to do this sustainably in the future so we don't get to this situation.
So the issue about entourage, and I'm saying I'm happy because you have been there. And so that argument has been also put forward by the NDC, the NPP, and all of that. But moving forward, obviously, it's about time we took a certain decision in respect of the entourage, because you can't have everybody.
I can assure you that we don't even need to cap it. You see, governments...
We don't need to cap it.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that government's decisions must be guided by prudence. Every government should know.
But that's what we expect, but it doesn't happen.
You cannot go overboard. You cannot go beyond a certain point.
Left to that, then we won't have laws.
Let me make a point to you. You see, let us not make a fetish about presidential travel. Indeed, the requirement is that the president should have a core team around him that enables him function wherever he is.
Who defines the core team?
The core team cannot exceed 10, I'm telling you.
By what
So I'll explain to you.
Yeah.
So there's the president himself. He needs his security men, so 3 or 4 of them. Then 1 or 2 aides, maybe an advisor, a doctor, and then 1 or 2 other people who may attend to his personal needs. That's all you need. And if you have that core team, they can fit into this Falcon, and there will be extra space for 1 or 2 or 3 other ministers to join you. I have been on presidential delegations before. There were a number of times that I was on the Falcon. But any time that I didn't find space, the rest of us went commercial. And I can assure you it is far cheaper than renting another jet. An alternative already exists. An alternative arrangement already exists. Which is cheaper, more affordable. That is commercial.
But perhaps we could even cut that expense out altogether if we limit the size of the entourage.
When I speak about the president's core team, that is the president's own function as a president.
Who will still have to travel
even as he travels
via commercial means.
I'm saying that even as he travels, the personnel he needs around him to be able to function, even as he's in the air and when he lands or wherever he is, a case can be made for in terms of fitting into the presidential aircraft. All other members of the delegation, like media, you can have like 30 media men on the delegation, depending on how many broadcasters or networks are interested. Then there are ministers who, by virtue of their positions, are critical to the meeting that the president is going to attend. For example, the president is going to discuss alone. He needs the finance minister, perhaps the attorney general, or the foreign minister, or one or two other officials. They can go commercial. Indeed, in other countries, apart from their presidents, their ministers also have their own jets. The U.S. foreign secretary has her own jet. So she hardly travels with the president. But I'm saying that you don't need a second jet, like Rachel was alluding to. Indeed, when we took the decision in 2009 to cancel the Boeing business jet, we thought that it was an unnecessary expense. Indeed, that jet was going to cost us an extra $65 million. It was huge. And it was an expense that we could not afford. Indeed, Doctor would remember that in 2009, we inherited a budget deficit of almost 12%, which left a gaping hole in government's finances. With a situation like that, you cannot fork out $65 million to go and buy another jet when you already have one. So my argument is that the jet we have is fit for purpose. It can handle...
We didn't have one then. We were buying the two.
We were buying two, but
yes,
we took
so
one.
We didn't have one.
We took one that we believed met the requirements as I have outlined in terms of the president's personnel and what he needs.
Didn't we have the Gulfstream at the time, which was
no, the Gulfstream actually had been sold.
Okay,
the Gulfstream had been sold, but indeed it is interesting. President Kufuor refused to use the Gulfstream. He claimed that
because it wasn't safe.
No. He claimed that its purchase was shrouded in secrecy. Meanwhile, it was nothing.
Oh yeah, the transparency issue, right?
No. All that had happened was that we contacted the bank, HSBC. HSBC said that okay, they will form a special purpose vehicle, which is not illegal, which is not irregular, called Galen. And then Galen will buy the aircraft for Ghana, and then we'll pay back as per the agreed arrangements we have with them. That's all. There was nothing. Indeed, they set up a committee chaired by Mr. Osafo. There was Mr. J.H. Mensah and Kwabena Japan. They found nothing on top. But President Kufuor refused to use it. By the time he came to power again, he had sold it off, so it was not there. Then he made a decision to buy 2 jets. We insisted in opposition that it was not necessary. Get one. When we came, we got one. This jet cost us about $40 million. The Boeing business was going to cost $65 million. We said, no, one will be enough. And we have used it. If there is any extra requirement, there are other alternatives that are far cheaper than renting this. Indeed, there are other instances. Look, I have traveled with President Mahama, where he has sat in an economy class from Frankfurt to Ghana. Economy. He didn't even sit in business class. Economy. He sat with everybody. It didn't diminish his stature as president in any way, shape, or form. It did not take anything away from you. But he sat in there. He could have made a decision to also rent an aircraft in Frankfurt, filled with luxury, and come to Ghana because he is president. But all of us sat in economic class and we got there safely.
That's the point I'm getting to, Felix, which is that if we are not hard and fast about some of these things and we leave it to the good judgment or supposedly good judgment of people, that's where the challenge will come in, because you don't know who's going to come in and what their tastes are.
Not to cut
so
at the end of the day, the problem is that presidential travels are not static in terms of numbers. Depending on where you are going, the numbers may vary. But there's a minimum standard, which is what I've explained, that the president...
But do we agree on that minimum standard?
Yeah, but I don't think that anybody would disagree.
Very well.
When the president is traveling...
It's fluid.
His communication person must be there.
Yeah.
Sometimes his chief of staff. Sometimes an advisor. His medical person must be there. His security, 3 or 4 of them. Because when you go to another country, that country is responsible for security anyway, but you need your own protective detail. So 3 or 4 of them is sufficient.
3 or 4 of them is sufficient.
It's sufficient based on So really, there's no fetish. It's not like the president needs to travel with a whole community in order for his status.
But that's what we have.
But it is completely wrong. And that is where the problem is arising.
Phyllis admitting generally to say that number cannot be static. It's contingent upon where you're going and the need
any
of that
extra
travel.
outside of the president's quarter can go commercial, and it is far cheaper.
Right. Yes, so that's the point. Yes,
that's what it is about.
You see, let's look at what informed the purchase of the Falcon.
Exactly.
I mean, before the purchase, the feasibility that we did as a country. I think, before that, the feasibility would have shown that at least at the optimum, the president might need 11 people. So even if those excesses, it could be fluid as we are saying, but then in the end, if nothing at all, and in case, those numbers that we are expecting on commercial, if something should happen and they don't arrive, the president can still function at wherever he's going. And I believe the feasibility will prove that.
Exactly, with technology.
Now my question is, has the current president traveled on the Falcon before?
Yeah, he mentioned, he said yes. It's
Right.
been a combination
Those
of that
are the
and then
questions,
commercial.
what has changed?
He's taken it to New York before.
What has changed?
That's what the Minister for Defense was saying, that they didn't have that reach, which according to Felix, that is not necessarily the case.
Not true.
Now, you see, prudency in governance is supposed to be what rules this country. For me, it is clear, if you give us the room, everybody would like to enjoy that extreme luxury kind of life.
Who wouldn't?
But then in the end, we should know very well that we're running a country where we understand our debt level is hitting a certain threshold, which is not normal for a typical African country. A country where your interest payment and your salary is swallowing, you know, what you generate. It becomes a problem to take such a decision at this time. So for me, we shouldn't look at it with the political colors. We shouldn't look at it and say, this has happened, like my brother Richard is saying. I mean, this has happened in the past, and we did this and that. So therefore, I mean, what prevents, you know, the current system for doing that? I think, you know, the president's, you know, inaugural speech should guide us in everything. He indicated that he's going to protect the public purse. But for me, I don't see this to be a way of protecting the public purse. I mean, from my financial eyes. Now, the timing to think about even getting, you know, a new jet, which I know the discussion will go
that
in
also,
that
yes,
direction.
yeah, you can start off with that.
It's very, very even wrong. Wrong in a sense that we don't know the post-COVID situation. Now the globe is embracing, you know, conferences and then meetings on virtual. To the extent that during the COVID, when the world shut down, you know, the global financial movement has been tied to sustainability now. To the extent of looking at what is happening with our climate. Now, a time is coming that sometimes a country, you may be assessed on the number of travels you do, based on the emissions.
And what comes out of it?
What will come out is that you might not attract the necessary funds, because the funds are tied to protecting the environment. So for me, post-COVID situation sometimes might not necessarily encourage several travels. It might not necessarily be. We're going to have a situation where a lot of meetings and conferences are going to be online. And if you do online and conferences are online, you're going to have incentives. And one of the incentives will be that you might easily attract green funding into your country. That is the trend we are growing. That is the trend we are gravitating, you know, the globe towards. So for me, I think we shouldn't, you know, look at it as satisfying our, you know, in a way, our culture, like as I indicated in my earlier submission. Now let's come to whether this purchase was captured in the budget or not. And
the proposed purchase.
Exactly. This proposed purchase was captured in the budget or not. Now, this is a major decision. I think if this was to be mentioned in the budget, coupled with the introduction of those taxes, I don't think that Ghanaians would have taken it light.
Because like you said, the budget was tilted towards austerity.
Exactly, more or less. So effectively, something that was not mentioned in the budget. I know Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Interior will have their own, you know, budget expenditure allocated to them, and in the end, they will like. But clearly, it's not, you know, prudent. Now let's look at the cost-benefit analysis of having an existing Falcon, which can accommodate core members that you want to travel with. And then
which
possibly
has about 10 more years on its lifespan. Let's put it out there.
Because
it has 20
I asked
years.
of the contract, you know, at the back when, you know, they think will not be comfortable to travel on this. 20 years. So if it's 10 years already, we still have more extra 10 years, you know, to go. Now, what is the net advantage economically? The net advantage for purchasing a new, you know, jet compared to having an existing one, and in case you should have spillover, those people can go on a commercial flight and then meet you wherever you are going. Possibly the limousine that you are traveling with should be able to take care of you until those people comes to join them. So effectively, I mean, we need to look at this analysis. Now, the new jet that is being bought is being touted as a multifunctional, you know, proposed, you know, kind of jet.
Do we know the capacity?
70 to 100, the minister mentioned.
Oh, okay.
And I'm wondering at what point, you know, because if it is multi-purpose, then I'm looking at a situation where they're saying that the Ghana Air Force will be using the same jet in case of any trouble, and the president will also be using it. Now we'll be here. If we should buy that jet, the president of the day at that time might tell us that it's not luxurious enough. No. It could be that, you know, it has been used by several number of... I'm looking into the future. Because of the dynamics of human taste. It can change.
That's fine. Let's hear Richard on that. Richard is reacting to that.
I would tell you that, look, we have to be careful the way we are going about this. Let's look at the net advantage of what we have now compared to buying a new one.
Very well. Richard, yes.
You know, so it's very interesting, right? This conversation we're having is many years old. When the purchase of an aircraft that can do the very thing we're talking about today. Phyllis helped us with a number, $65 million. The BBJ was going to cost us.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
The value has
Yes. Yeah, I'm saying. So, yes. So, even really, the decision to cancel it even has cost us if we're going to buy it today.
I don't think so.
No, please.
Okay.
I mean, you're just saying
let's
that.
make progress.
You are the finance man here.
Yeah.
If we had bought this 10 years ago and it was going to cost us 65
Was it also
million.
70 to 100 seater?
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah, no, the BBJ was going. No.
30.
Yeah.
So that would have been,
so please.
It was a 30-seater.
Okay. So in the circumstance we're talking now, right? We'd certainly not be renting an aircraft if we had that. Okay. So what I'm saying is that the situation we're dealing with today is because there was some decision taken in the past, and the Mills administration, okay, was taken in by the conversation of lack of resources to purchase an aircraft at a time. So they caved in to the same conversation that happened to a champion who was buying his aircraft, and they said, okay, we're not going to do it. The populist position was that let's not buy, let's just buy one. And you bought a jet that cost 45 million as opposed to 65. And then that one is limited. And he admitted, Phyllis admitted, that during their time, there were spillovers that had to go commercial. The question is, can we account for how many times people had to spill over into commercial flight and then aggregate that? Hold on 1 second. And aggregate that to tell us how much we needed extra to top up and get a 30. So the position we are... Please. So the position...
because we don't have much time.
Right.
Yeah.
So the position we must adopt is that do we need an aircraft for our president? Not really. You see, that is misleading. It's not for the president.
Yeah.
It's for the Air Force.
For his travels.
For the Ghana Air Force. It is used for all sorts of things. The minister talked about some 50 million over the past 10 years that were spent in lifting military people to assignments outside this country. If you add that, right, to the 45 million we spent to buy one that is limited, you're ending up to about 95 million that we have spent because we failed to make the decision that was necessary to attend to our needs. So we need to have a conversation, not to focus on this situation where I see the sentiment because of the cost. People can say this, because I say that, but let's make a decision rationally to say, what do we need? We need an aircraft that can function at a certain rate and can carry a certain number of people. That will serve our country right. And so that we move away from the sentiment of saying, oh, this is too much, this is luxury, this is that. Let's deal with the rational decision of getting an aircraft that serve our country.
Very well. I'll give you a minute too, but before that, Richard, don't you think that timing is also important? That sometimes you need to gauge the mood of the people. We're just having a fix the country campaign online and every other thing, and we are working with a budget that is squeezing the ordinary Ghanaian
I agree.
And then we throw in this kind of thing. Sometimes, don't you think it's
the
timing is, it comes across as there's some level of insensitivity.
Well, I'm saying that I'm aware to that sentiment and I share it. But you see, when your grandfather commit the crime of not leaving a legacy, you, the children, suffer. This is what we inherited from the Mills Mahama administration.
Well. Let me.
Now,
I think that I need to no, you come in definitely.
We are having to deal with it, and I hope that we'll deal with this sustainably here.
We don't have much time at all. Let me say that, because I'll give you 30 seconds to ask, because I want to.
Sure.
Yes, and
looking at where Richard was coming from, that cancelling one of those aircraft cost us, as a country. He was looking at, the cost side. But let's look at the benefit that, and the excesses and the spillovers into our economy, the savings we made at that time. If you are going to buy 65 million, worth of aircraft, and you ended up spending 45 million, now the 20 million, what it can do. Let's look at this. The excesses, the spillovers, the social excesses. If it's number of classrooms that you built for with this 20 million.
Thanks.
I mean, there's a huge benefit that goes with it. So let's look at that side.
Now, let me demystify this position that Richard has taken. We did not lose anything by rejecting the Boeing business jet in 2009. Indeed, we gained. Look, the $50 million that the defense minister mentioned is the cost of airlifting troops to go and act in theaters of conflict around the world. That cost is borne by the United Nations, not the government of Ghana. So we didn't lose anything. We didn't spend a dime. If we buy a jet that can do that, or we will simply charge the UN for using it. So we will just make money. But it will cost us to maintain and buy that jet. We are not in the business of making profit off peacekeeping. We want what we pay. No, let me make a point. So he's creating the impression that Ghana.
So you don't like making money for Ghana?
Ghana has spent $50 million airlifting troops. So we've not lost $50 million. Indeed, the UN pays for it and then pays us for the efforts of our troops elsewhere. So that point.
So we lost 50 million.
We didn't lose 50 million.
If we had the jet, we would have made 50 million.
Every time the president travels, even in the Falcon, we still incur cost.
Sure.
So if people let me make the point. If you buy a Boeing business jet and people sit in it and the numbers are huge, you will still incur cost. It is actually higher than they going commercial. Indeed, if the president had gone to France, sitting in Emirates first class with everybody in his entourage, he would have incurred less cost than we did renting his jets. So the cheapest is to go commercial. And I have gone commercial many times.
So we don't need aircraft.
So we have the Falcon.
What the Falcon does is to give you some convenience in terms of
for the president and the core team that he needs.
That's all. But in terms of cost, the cheapest option is commercial. And commercial, indeed, if you sit in first class in Emirates, the conditions there are perhaps even better than sitting in the Falcon, I can assure you. But it is much cheaper.
Right.
So let us get that straight. But you see, prudence is a key requirement in governance. The saying that you cut your coat according to the size of your cloth makes a lot of sense. Look, I'm sure if we get an Air Force One of the type that Joe Biden uses, we will like it. But we cannot afford it. The Emir of Qatar, he travels with 1,000 people anytime he steps out. But he can afford it. There's a country that can make $17 billion a year from gas sales. They have the money. They are entitled to spend it anyway. There are so many things we want that we cannot get. Look, let me tell you, 3 weeks ago, I woke up at 2 a.m. to see a text message of somebody eliciting help from me because his brother had been bitten by a snake to buy antivenom. I didn't see it in time. When I woke up at 5 a.m., I got another message. The brother had died because they could not find anti-snake venom.
So the basic necessities.
Our needs are so basic, we can't meet them. So our leaders cannot live like Arabian kings.
Thank you.
They must make do with what we have.
Thank you very much.
It's fairly comfortable for the
Thank you very much. And on that note, we say a big thank you to you, Dr. Lord Mensah, Senior Lecturer with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School, Mr. Richard Ahiagba, Immediate Past Executive Director of the Dankwa Institute, and Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, former Deputy Minister for Information. Thank you so much, gentlemen. And also to our viewers and listeners, we do appreciate your time. And do have yourselves a very good weekend and stay safe. We'll be back at the same time next week. Bye-bye.
We are in the center of the world. We are in Tema this Sunday at 4.